So I've had the idea for some time to do some quick fire videos to get through the loads of samples that I have sitting in storage, and it recently came to my attention that these little sample vials from the website Nose, some of which are completely evaporating and some of the labels are disappearing. So I thought it's time to get to it. I will say the origin of why I made a YouTube channel in the first place is largely as a kind of journal. Fragrance obviously is a fleeting thing. Things decay, things evaporate, things get used up. So I like the idea of having some sort of permanent video impressions of some of these things before I get rid of them. So today we'll be talking mostly about Comme des Garcons fragrances. All of these I have worn before. Usually when I would get an order from Nose, I would excitedly try out all the samples and then sort of store them away for later for archive. But apparently these are not fit for archive because they are evaporating quick. So I have worn these before, so it's more than a first impressions, but I won't go too deep into anything here. Today's selection, I just happened to find a bag of mostly Comme des Garcons, so that's what we'll be talking about. But first up, we'll talk about my scent of the day, Oud by Francis Kurkdjian. Sundays are a good day for sampling for me. I usually shower halfway through the day, so the first half of the day I can wear one or two things. The second half I can wear something else, and I'm usually not around people in the evening, so I can wear the weirder things. So this morning I decided to spray on this sample of Oud that I found while going through my other samples. I remember when I first tried this, finding it very strange and interesting. I remember seeing the Francis Oud fragrances at the counter for the first time, and I really didn't have much encounter with Oud. Revisiting it today, I still think it is quite interesting. I find it very weird actually, and I think that's largely due to the saffron note, but I also find it now almost sickeningly sweet. There's something borderline stomach churning to me. This is a weird reference, but it really reminds me of a sex shop. If you've ever been in a naughty sex shop, there's lots of them around New York City, especially the old. I remember as a college student popping in and out of the old ones around Chelsea just for fun, just for giggles. But they have this sort of latexy, fake, rubbery, but also sickly sweet smell in the air. And this reminds me a lot of that. I believe some of the strangeness and the leatheriness is coming from a very prominent saffron note. It has this very smooth, polished feel in the way that Francis often does. I find this incredibly strange, and actually it pairs nicely with the discussion of Comme des Garcons. It's not particularly oudy, it's not even particularly woody to me, but it's almost it's such a strange contrast between that leathery, dry, spicy, smooth saffron, and then there's a bed of like just these really sweet, powerful musks. I still find it interesting, but this sample vial is probably enough for life because I already found myself earlier feeling slightly nauseated by it, and that's never a good thing. So that's the original Oud. And then on to, what do we have here? Comme des Garcons Black. This is one I've always thought I should like more than I do. I've heard other people describe it. I tend to wear a lot of black clothing. I know people that are into the same fashion as me who really love this perfume and wear this as a signature, but something about it never quite sold me. Yeah, it's tarry, it's black. I think for me, it's a little bit simple and a little bit one note. It reminds me a little bit of almost like black rubber tires, but it's also incensey and smoky. I think I prefer the more sort of like white incense of Avignon or Kyoto compared to this sort of tarry, but it's got some of those woody chemicals. It's very signature Comme des Garcons. It's not overly smoky. I'm actually kind of liking it right now, but it's also got a slight sweetness or sugariness to it to me. Obviously nothing compared to the Oud, but there's something kind of rounding it out. But it does have that fresh, sort of light touch, airy touch that a lot of the Comme des Garcons incense and smoky fragrances have. I think it's nice, it's just not essential for me. On to Comme des Garcons Copper. This one's quite interesting. Now I don't talk a lot about Comme des Garcons, but for a while it was my favorite house, and Wonderwood is in the rare category of fragrances of which I've gone through an entire bottle. Copper is quite interesting actually. because it really smells green. Ooh, that's actually really good. To me, this smells like a big burst of galbanum. I seem to remember later going into sort of a milky sandalwood, but right now very green, very vegetal, very galbanum. You can sense something slightly sweet and milky, vaguely vanillic, but not in an obvious way, more just like the milky texture of vanilla. That's actually really good. That bears revisiting. Interesting that they called it copper. This is maybe overly far out there reference, but copper does turn green when it oxidizes, and this really is a green scent. And if you know the bottle, it's quite beautiful. That's interesting. I don't know how that one passed me by. Maybe I've become more of a green and galbanum lover since the first time I tried it. That's really doing it for me. Next up, scent 2, Laurel. The Comme des Garcons collaborations with Monocle, which is a magazine, are all quite nice, fresh, woody, very sort of Japanese spa, but smelling and inspired. I like them all quite a bit. Laurel, this one's very spicy right now. I seem to remember Angelica, but I'm getting a lot of pepper right now. It's also worth noting, and that's why I didn't want to do a deep dive, that these samples might be a bit degraded and a bit evaporated. So I didn't want to go too deep on them. Most of my samples are from discovery sets, which I think are a lot more trustworthy because usually they're manufacturer sealed. They don't evaporate. They're better to have around as reference. This is just a quick reminder of these perfumes. Yeah, this is very nice. It's in the realm of Angélique sous la pluie or French Lover. I think it would be a nice cheaper alternative to French Lover. Yeah, peppery, Angelica. It's got that very classic CDG, airy, woody, ISO-E kind of thing in the air. Really nice, really lovely. I think if I didn't have so many fragrances, this would be one I would happily wear, but it just, I have many other things like it already. And last up for today's lightning round is Eau de Parfum. This is the original Eau de Parfum. They since released another called Eau de Parfum, which is in the melted plastic bottle, which gets nicknamed tape because it has a tape note. The older Eau de Parfum comes in, if I remember, it has sort of like a ambery color. And this one, yeah, this one is all about spice. I remember in the past this one being about cinnamon, but this one is not smelling like cinnamon. So this might actually be something different, because I think there's the original Comme des Garcons, like original that comes in like sort of clear but bumpy textured bottle. And from memory, that's what this smells like, because there's another one that's like really strong cinnamon, and I would recognize that right away. So already the fault of this unresearched quickfire video. Hopefully this is somewhat entertaining at least. But this is giving me an interesting effect that those older Comme des Garcons often have of smelling like plastic, like opening a new computer. I feel like that smell is less and less now, but old computer parts, when they were new, but from a few years ago, when you'd open them up, you get that smell of sort of plastic manufacturing and circuitry. I'm getting a little bit of that, but a really prominent sort of almost nose-piercing pepperiness. Again, this is labeled just for reference, just Comme des Garcons Eau de Parfum. Very much in the style of those early Comme des Garcons. There's Odeur 53, which is a lot stranger than this, but you can sense some of those very like intentionally synthetic notes. But the overall impression is of something spicy, peppery, and of something hot, like something on fire, or like circuits sparking and like a little bit of smoke coming up out of those. That one's very interesting. Let's go back through. That's all for today. I'll try to get to this every Sunday, but I can't promise anything. So the oud, which I'm also wearing on my body, it's still to me such, like, I've never smelled anything like this, but it's so synthetic and sweet. It smells like a Eldo, like a État Libre d'Orage. It's interesting to me just that this exists in the Mason Francis universe. It's very strange, and it very much smells like latex sex toys. Onto copper. Yeah, getting less green, getting more milky. Yeah, milky sandalwood, also kind of a strange borderline stomach churning, like milky green. thing, but not quite to the extreme that it's actually a bad smell. It has a freshness and a brightness still to it. Smelling more synthetic, less natural green as when it started, but very nice. I do wonder if there's just a touch of that same sandalwood aroma chemical that's in Santal 33, because I'm getting just a hint of that, just like peeking around the corner, but you know, nothing major. Next up, this was Laurel. Yeah, spicy, fresh. I would say more peppery than French Lover, but not a million miles away. Angelique sous la pluie is also peppery, so maybe more like Angelique sous la pluie, but stronger, less watery, less fresh than Angelique, and more spicy. This guy, who are you? Black. Oh yeah, black. It's smelling better now. I'm actually liking it more now. It is an interesting, it has a resinous smokiness to it, but also like just the vaguest hint of tar, but like freshly laid tar, you know, when you go by a road that's been recently paved. It's sometimes a nice smell if it's not overwhelming, if it's at a distance, and I'm getting that here. That sort of distant tarry smell with a nice kind of almost nutty woodiness to it, and a little bit of incense smoke. It's growing on me. I'll have to try some fresh sprays of black next time I'm at Dover Street Market. And finally, Eau de Parfum. Yeah, peppers, that sort of, yeah. I think it's more the sensation than the actual smell that gives me the idea of sparks, because it almost, when you smell really deeply, feels like it singes your nose just a little bit with that sort of chemical smell. Yeah, new plastic, smoke, incense. Again, a peppery sensation. And there's my doorbell, so that's all for now.